Great. Well, welcome everyone. I'm Scott Kelting and I work with the NAHB to help facilitate the NAHB student competitions. And this is the Q&A webinar for the custom small builder Q&A. And today we have representatives from America's Home Place and a judge, Miles, to help us with the Q&A. And so let's start off maybe with some introductions. If we could go down the list here, Doug.
Hey, greetings. Recorded. Endeavor. Got a second reminder that we're being recorded. Regional President with America's Home Place. Been employed with America's Home Place since I graduated college way back when, before there was electricity. And just glad to be part of this and looking forward to a great event.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug. And Mark?
Yes, sir. Mark Mashburn. I've been with America's Home Place. It's my 19th year. I did have electricity when I started, Doug. So just so you know, appreciate the time. Enjoy.
Thanks, Mark. And Ben?
Hi, my name is Ben Polk. I'm also division president for America's Home Place in Southern Alabama, South Georgia. I'm on my 20th year with America's Home Place, and looking forward to working with all you guys.
Thanks, Mark. And Chris, are you on the line?
My name is Chris Adler. I'm also with America's Home Place. I've only been here 10 years, so I'm a neophyte with America's Home Place compared to Ben, Mark, and Doug, and appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this and look forward to working with everyone.
Great, thanks, Chris. And Miles is on the line. I know Miles has been a judge for other NAHB student competitions and is going to be a judge this year for the custom small builder. Miles
Cardenas here, Land Planning and Development Manager for Taylor Morrison, previous judge and 7 years of industry experience.
Great. Well, thanks, Miles. So we're going to start off by going over just some of the logistics of the student competition. We'll briefly talk about the problem statement, the location, and then we'll open up to questions for the students. So the timeline, one of the big dates here is October 17th. You have the opportunity to apply for the IBS Student Travel Scholarship and registration for the student competition. Your team member list is due November 21st. One of the big items, obviously, is December 19th is when the project is due. And then we have our presentations at the International Builders Show in Las Vegas, February 26th and 27th. Something a little different this year is we're going to have the judges debrief right before the awards ceremony on the 28th. And so hopefully we'll roll from the judges debrief into the awards ceremony shortly after. Just some things about the proposal. Your proposal should follow the outline of the proposal should follow the scorecard. That way it's easy for the judges to review all the different proposals. You want to try to be concise, using great grammar, and make sure that the information that's on the scorecard is standing out for the judges to be able to see. So if you can, an executive summary at the beginning would be really helpful as well. And then the oral presentations. This is your opportunity to explain why you did what you did and explain what you did to the judges in 10 minutes concisely, and then an opportunity for the judges to ask you some questions. There's also a permission to use video and waiver of liability, and that will be sent to your coaches for you to fill out prior to the presentation. That way we can record you all for the Facebook Live. I'm not a big social media person there, so sorry about that one. And that way it would be recorded and sent out live. So those of the friends and family that want to watch that aren't able to make it can join. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the team here to talk about the problem description and then the location.
Yeah, so problem description, as you see on the screen, your construction loan is up to $1.5 million. This is the maximum allowable budget you have. It's a small home builder looking for opportunities to build homes, produce return investment in Lake Altoona, Georgia.
And a little bit about the location.
Yeah, Lake Altoona is one of the, I guess, more popular lakes in Georgia. There's several lakes in the state of Georgia that are reservoir lakes, and this one touches several different counties: Cobb County, Cherokee County, Bartow. One of the main towns that is around it is Cartersville, Georgia. It's convenient to I-75. It's probably about an hour ride into Atlanta, depending on where part of the lake you're at. And it's it's got a bunch of boat ramps, got a state park on it. There's a lot of it's kind of the foothills, beginning of the mountainous area in North Georgia. But it's a popular destination that still has a decent amount of land available for building.
So I'm going to open up to questions, and so don't be shy. Go ahead and just ask away, jump on in, and also just want to let you know that we do have the Q&A Google group. So if there's questions that you think of after today, feel free to ask them in that Google group. I'll forward them on and find some answers for you and send them back. In addition, if you have some questions as far as maybe it's just some logistical questions or things that are very specific to you and your team, not necessarily about the problem description and your solution, feel free to email myself and my wife, Scott and Mary Kelting, or Sarah as well. So with that, I'm going to open up to questions. If you're more comfortable putting them your questions in the chat, that's fine as well.
So this is us with Kent State. We had a couple questions, but then when talking about sustainability, when it comes to certifications, how often do you see this, and what are positive and negatives that you see from this? Like, is it worth the money putting into these certifications, or is it more just when it comes down to the home builder, if they care about sustainability and having their home?
I think I can help with that answer. So, sustainability is a pretty hot topic right now in new residential construction. I think there's a lot of value to it, but you got to balance the sustainability aspect with your budget. And it's always a question of, is it worth the investment? Is it worth the owner purchasing it? Will they be compelled to buy that piece of sustainability as a part of the residents they're looking for? So in other words, if you want to put solar panels on the roof, I think that's a great sustainability selling point, but you got to look at what's the cost of it in engineering it into the actual house, battery storage, all those things you got to consider, and you got to look at ROI. What's going to be the return on the investment? So if you're going to sell some sustainability aspect of the home, which I would encourage you guys to consider doing, balance that with the cost versus the investment versus the payback on that investment. And keep in mind that this has got to be competitively priced. So you're going to be selling this thing in the marketplace, and you're going to be selling it against the competition. So you got to see what that investment will do. And you do want some kind of point of differentiation when you're in the market. And I think sustainability is a great space to do that in.
I guess the question I have is concerning the interest rate. I know in the problem statement, there was something mentioned about finding a local interest rate dependent upon the area. And I guess just like, what's the best means of finding this out, if that makes sense?
A lot of the lenders in that local area are going to have, whether it's for the construction or you're trying to figure out where you're going to be on a permanent financing level for the consumer. A lot of them are going to be posting that all over their websites, whether it's for the construction loans, business line, or perm lending.
Thank you.
I had another question kind of going along with sustainability and how teams stand out to you guys versus others. I was kind of wondering if you could just talk around those rounds of like what makes a proposal stand out to you compared to other things that you've seen.
So are you asking what other sustainability options are available?
Not really sustainability. I feel like you mentioned, sustainability is a way that you can make yourself stand out. But what are other ways that attract your guys' eyes when you're going through a packet that stands out to you?
Yeah, curb appeal is everything when you're on the market selling new construction. And there's all new architectural trends are out there. Do something different. Get creative and figure out a way to create a facade. I call it the money side of the house. The front, your front, as soon as you pull up, something's going to catch your eye, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. A lot of these things that you can do to really, to really jump out there, even with colors and different textures and combine different types of cladding on the house to really stand out there and make something jump out. Because home purchasing is like most other purchases, is it's an emotional buy. And you can justify all the numbers in the world you want, but once you fall in love with that house, money is secondary to buying that thing. So I would certainly encourage to get a little creative with your architectural style and do something different on the inside. Don't follow just what everybody else is doing. Just do something a little crazy and stupid. I mean, it'll jump out there.
Thank you.
I think another part is to show that, to look at it as if you were investing your personal money, and how are you going to do on your investment? How quickly can you flip your money, get it back, and flip it into another property? That's vital. That's what it's all about in the business world. So, and what Doug just said is what's going to help you. There's other things you can do, but that's what is also real important to me that I'll be looking at is how sustainable is the business? How well is it going to sell?
I would even also say that along those same lines, the housing market is pretty competitive right now. It's just a lot of opportunities out there for people to go buy if they want to in several areas. So like Mr. Doug mentioned, just trying to make sure you stand out, but then also make sure that you point out how you're different from your competitors or how you're better is also something that a lot of people take into account when they're looking at purchasing as well.
Some good questions. Any other questions out there?
I guess amongst all the proposals that you guys see, what's like one of the areas that really sticks out that separates the scores, if you know what I mean?
On the actual submittal, the written proposal?
Yes, yeah, that one.
Miles, you have any words of wisdom on this one since you've been a judge in the past?
I think creativity has always been a really good thing to adopt when you're putting together your proposal. Organization, obviously, making it appealing to the eye, easy to read. All the information that you're looking for or will need is kind of easily found in certain areas. So obviously summaries, like was mentioned earlier, are very important. The overall look and appeal of the written proposal that's submitted is where a lot of people don't realize is that the presentation is only a certain part, a small part of how you're actually graded. So your proposal, however you can make it creative, include all the information, making sure it's summarized, obviously being creative with the product that you're utilizing, making sure that you are following the rubric. I think just a lot of the important things that were mentioned earlier about just making sure that you follow everything, that you look at everything that's provided, that you cover all of your bases, that you think outside of the box as it relates to things that you found either in the area, with buyers in that area, with certain things that are going on around that may be unique, that set you apart from something else that's also in that area or something else that's also going on. Maybe using something inspirational that you found somewhere that you also put back into how you created what you created for your product. I would probably say those are a lot of things that many of the judges look out for because you're looking at a lot of proposals. So the big thing that stands out is people that go the extra mile and add some different things in there that may not have been thought about or that other people didn't think about in using theirs.
Thank you.
No problem.
sorry, opposing the question that Mitchell asked, could you guys kind of talk about what you see is lacking in packets that you would like to have more detail on?
So I just jump in there. If any of the judges have any comments, that's fine. These are a new group of judges that haven't done this before. So I think one of the things is they're going to be looking at it. Is this as real world as possible? And then the other thing is that I think is important is making sure so you have that grading summary report on the last page, and if your packet, your problem statement or your solution follows that. In all those bullet point items on there, it'll be really helpful. So sometimes, for example, if you have one sentence on one of the items that's on the scoring category and it's buried in there in the text somewhere, it may be missed. So you want to have good headings, good organization so that it's not missed, because there are a lot of proposals out there. So you want to make sure you get all that out in there.
Yeah, and as a former competitor and as a judge of previous years of competitions, I think the biggest thing that is always missed is just the attention to detail as it relates to your proposal, the categories that you have and what's included, just all the different things. Again, the attention to detail to the scorecard, attention to detail to the categories. I would just say make sure that you go through what's provided with a fine-tooth comb, that you kind of understand what you're utilizing in your classrooms as well at school as it relates to codes and schedules and budgets and your estimates. Just trying to make sure that you go through and make sure that you don't have any errors, any clerical errors. So it's just making sure it's always that check the box method where you go through and just make sure that you've got everything included and that you can check all the boxes. I think if you do that, you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's great. Great feedback. Thanks, Miles. And, I guess one other thing is just, in there too, you're going to be making a lot of decisions. And so if there's an opportunity to explain why you made those decisions, that's really helpful for the judges as well. These are great questions.
Everett has a great question on the chat box. Scott, this may be more your area to answer. Who is your audience? Who are you pitching this to? And that makes all the difference in the world how you frame your presentation.
Right. Yeah. You'd want to be pitching this as if you're trying to get a loan for this. And I think that's what your goal is. So you're trying to go for a local lender and get that out there. And so they're going to be looking to invest in you.
Yeah, your construction lender ends up being a partner of sorts in this endeavor. And if you can't convince them that this is worthy of them putting out 1.2 or $1.5 million, then this thing will never get off the ground. And you're actually selling it, you're pitching it. And you need to really emphasize your point of differentiation, your return on investment, what kind of gross profit you intend to make, how quick you intend to make it, how quick you can turn the product, and how quickly you can retire that bank loan. So in those regards, a good build schedule, I would think, would be in order. Something that you can show that's not unrealistic, but that is pretty aggressive.
Do you mind elaborating on that last point about a build schedule that's aggressive and what you meant by that, and if you have any advice for your schedule?
Yeah, so you're talking about a $1.5 million scope, and what would be a realistic expectation to produce that house from knocking the first tree down to turning the keys over? So you've got to, it depends on your architectural style, what kind of foundation you're going to be putting in the ground. What type of trade availability is out there? What type of long lead times are going to be anticipated for certain items on the house to build? We're just kind of right now we've got COVID in the rearview mirrors of sorts. And so the supply chain issue is kind of coming back to normal, but it is and it isn't. There's still some things that are some gotchas out there that you're going to have to maybe try to discover and put a plan together for those long lead items. And how fast you realistically think you can build this house. It's all over the board. Some builders still take quite a long time to build a house. Other builders that are pretty acute in understanding these things or have quite a bit of a better success rate at doing it. And you guys are going to have to make that decision and figure out what that time frame looks like for each of your individual teams. In other words, nobody's going to make any money until the house is completed and the homeowner's ready to move in. And if it takes you a year and a half to build that house, well, $1.5 million over a year and a half costs a lot more money than $1.5 million over 6 months.
I had a quick question. I'm calling in here from Cal Poly. I had to bounce out of class real quick, but just kind of going over the problem. It's not entire. I know we have the 3 different counties, Cobb, Cherokee, and Bartow. But what is the distance within those counties? Is anything fair? Or does it need to be within a certain distance from the Lake Allatoona specifically? We were kind of looking at that, and it seems not a little vague, but we were wondering how far we can bend that.
Well, you've got multiple restrictions you've got to look at when you're considering where this lot's going to be, what county is it going to be in. You're going to have county zoning setbacks you got to deal with, and you got. I think this is a Corps of Engineers lake. I'm not certain. You got Corps of Engineers setbacks you got to deal with, and you got floodplain issues you got to deal with. It's got to be so far above the water, and the height above the water is typically dictated by distance from the water. So those are all things you got to make determinations as you find the actual lot that you want to build on.
Right. Our question was more so. And that's all really good. Our question was more so the problem says we're looking for lakeside property, Lake Allatoona. But all the 3 counties that are listed kind of extend a distance away from Lake Allatoona. And then you also have like some really neat towns, kind of like Cartersville, that aren't necessarily on the lake, but they're kind of interesting, have some cool lots. Are those cities, those municipalities within bounds for us to play with?
As long as it's on the lake. That seems to be a pretty, that seems to be the message that the problem statement wants to stay within, but it needs to be on the lake.
Yeah, and your question is I think it's more of what municipality does this piece of land fall in? In other words, Cherokee County has zoning for the entire county. So if you pick Cherokee County, you can literally go to their website and look at their zoning map, find what the residential zoning is, and then with that zoning number, it's going to be like R22 or whatever, R40, R100. Then you need to find that number and go back. You may even need to make a phone call and ask what the setback requirements for that particular zoning is.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Brendan, I think you're asking more, can you go off the lake? And I believe the answer is no, you have to be on lake.
Okay, gotcha.
It's not going to be in that county, but
Yeah, that was more so the question. We kind of started looking at other spots just because so much of the lake is actual lakeside property is federal, owned by the military. I mean, there are only a select few lots that we spotted, a couple in the Northeast, a couple by Ackworth that are actually lakefront that have access to the lake, the ability to build a dock on. So kind of with the constraints there, we were looking at going 1 to 2 miles inland. So that was kind of our thought process. But we want to make sure that was within bounds.
Yeah, the problem statement, I believe, is pretty clear about how it's got to be touching the water. And part of the research I did before recommending this particular lake was lot availability. And my preliminary research found that there seems to be quite a bit of lot availability around Altoona.
Okay, sweet. We'll move forward with that. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And we have
I believe
another.
this is the lake. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we have another question here on the chat. If one of you all would like to address that one on the financing.
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you're gonna, if the bank's, well, first of all, the bank will never be 100% invested in a construction loan. They're going to want to see some type of equity from the actual builder that has skin in the game. And you need to make a decision on how much equity as a builder that you're willing to invest in this property in order to reduce the amount that you're going to finance, because time is money. And the more money you borrow over a longer time, the more of the actual profit share the bank is going to be getting at the end of the day. And typically, the downfall of a lot of independent scatter lot builders, spec builders, is they end up leveraging too much from the bank, and the bank zaps all of their profitability and when the project is done, they're typically at zero or maybe negative, depending upon how long it takes to build a house and how much you got in it and how good or how not so good the builder is at budgeting.
I have another quick question. As judges, I just want to ask what you like to see in terms of balance between the finance side of it and the construction side, like what you're looking for in our project, what you'd like to see just in terms of overall balance, and yeah, basically.
Well, they're going to go hand in hand. That they've got to line up, whether it's with um, what the market can afford, uh, what you can sell quickly. Those two things are going to kind of go hand in hand. They need to line up.
Sorry, I probably should
Yeah.
have specified too. In the presentation aspect of it, would you kind of make that same statement that you want them to kind of go hand in hand and line up, or would you say you'd rather see someone focus a little bit more on one side, or just that it should overall kind of blend together and feel like a presentation that flows?
The numbers of what it's gonna what you're selling it for, what it's gonna cost to build, the money you're gonna make, how you plan on cash flow in it. We want it. The objective here is to be as real world business like as possible. It is as kind of Doug brought up. There's amount of money. There's a lot of different ways you can go about this. How you're gonna how much cash flow you're gonna have in it. How you're gonna run your business while it's being built to show that you can make money or have the money to flow it until it sells. So it's all got to kind of go together. And I think, in my opinion, it's equally important.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
And Everett has a question on the chat about the marketing plan. Are we marketing ourselves as new builders? Are we trying to sell the house, or are we portraying ourselves as America's Home Place? I believe you're marketing yourself as your own builder. I believe what I've seen in the past, they come up with your own name as your own builder.
That's correct. Yes. Yep. Lots of great questions. Any other questions out there?
I have a question kind of targeted more about market analysis. What are some of the local anemones that in your guys' experience really attract home buyers more than anything? For example, like schools or stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of compelling factors when you're looking at buying a house. One, school districts are, I would say, number one. But again, you're looking at a lake house. This may be a vacation cabin for somebody that isn't interested in school district. So you got to figure out what is your buyer going to look like? What is the demographic of your buyer? In other words, if you're going to try to find some, and I might be tipping some ideas, but what if you just go crazy and doing a tree house or something, and they're not interested in the school district. This is probably a cash buyer who's just wants to find some neat place to take pictures of to tell his friends that he's got this tree house on the lake, I think livability, everybody, when you go to the lake, you want to go to a nice restaurant, you want to have some type of, maybe a small town vibe or something, or even close to a bigger city that has got amenities, those kinds of things. But I think you got to figure out what your buyer looks like and then cater your entire product, entire design and location around who this buyer is.
Thank you.
So I was an architecture major, so I got all kinds of stupid, crazy ideas from school. I mean, so get out there a little bit if you want to get, if you want to dance on the edge or something.
And that's the thing about this market is, last year's project from my research on it, it looks like it was a pretty specific niche. This one is wide open. There's a lot of different directions you can go, and a lot of different markets that you can cater to.
I had a question when it comes to labor shortages. I was on a couple minutes early and I heard Sarah speaking about labor shortages being a hot topic right now. So I was wondering if you guys could expand on that and how you think things have changed from COVID lowering and has it affected the labor shortage?
We're seeing an ease up a little bit with the with the interest rates rising. It's kind of cooled the market off a little bit, and I don't know that necessarily there's more people out there working. It's just that if you look at the yearly housing starts, it's down, and from that late 2020 time to now, but it's better to deal with more so because of the volume coming through the housing pipeline right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, in different states, it's affecting, in different markets, it's affecting labor availability in different ways. But in Georgia, like Ben said, it's kind of easing up, and it's really not. It's not as prevalent as it was even 18 months ago.
I have a question related to schedule and the start of construction. Would you say that we should just assume that after the presentation or our proposal, that shortly after that we would start construction, or is that kind of open to interpretation and whenever we want to start, we can start? What would you guys say about that?
Well, if your pitch is to the bank, right? And you walk out of there and the bank's going to probably give you an answer within no more than a week once they go to committee and vote on. That's how the construction money works. Is commercial money is what it is typically above a threshold. They got to take it to their board and they usually meet once a week. So I would say you need to be prepared to hit the ground within 30 days, because you still got permitting, you still got, you got in Georgia, we have what we call ESPC plans that we have to do, erosion and soil control, and then you got Corps of Engineers permitting to go through. So that's going to be a little bit of it's going to be, you got a couple of hoops to jump through when it comes to your geological permitting. I would say within 45 days, 60 days, you should be doing what we call mass grading. You have an LDI permit, and be able to I'm sorry, LD permit, land disturbance permit, and start in earnest.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question concerning some of the permitting. Just in what are the required permits that we need in order to achieve this project?
So that's going to vary depending upon what county and what municipality you're going to choose your land. And you can go to any of their websites. If you go to CherokeeCounty.gov or whatever, you're going to be able to drill down on, the zoning and building, and then drill down further. You'll get a series of submittals and that type of stuff where you need to be prepared to jump through those hoops in order to get your permit. But it'll be different from Baldwin County. It is in Cherokee County. You have different governmental agencies, and they're independent, and they establish their own rules when it comes to that stuff.
Thank you.
In terms of making phone calls to actual businesses or say subcontractors in the area, what are the rules on that with calling the local municipalities and getting real world information from them? What would you guys say about that?
We don't want you calling the local municipalities. But private companies I think is okay in the rules, but it's the municipalities that we want to steer away from.
Okay, I think earlier someone might have mentioned when we were talking about zoning, that once we figure out what our what kind of our zoning code is to make a phone call, should we not make phone calls about that?
Yeah, that's I'm flipping through the rules right now, but my recollection is that we should not be contacting the municipalities. Most of that information should be available on their website. If I'm wrong about that, I'll send an announcement in the Q&A Google groups.
No, yeah, I think that's what I thought too. I just heard that comment earlier, so I didn't know, but thank you. That's fair.
Yeah, I think the idea is that we don't want 20, 30 schools calling the municipality. So
Gotcha. Makes sense. They have more important things on their hands.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Well, money talks. That's all I can say about that is, when we have a trade partner that says, well, when I hear from one of our project managers, it says that certain X trade won't go to X house because it's too far. I always say, will they go there for $1 million? And the answer is, well, yeah. And my answer is, well, we decided they're going to go. It's just a matter of how much is it going to cost to get there. So that's a great question. You got to make business decisions about speed of construction. And that's something that we at America's Home Place that we deal with on a daily basis.
And also back to labor shortages, depending on the area. I know in some of my areas in North Florida, South Georgia, we don't have many masons or plumbers left in our area. So it might also be which specific trade you're looking for and whether you have to pay more to get them because there's not an abundance of them in that area.
Yeah, if you really want to put in an aggressive build schedule, you're going to be working weekends, and weekends equal premium wages. So budget for all that stuff.
I guess I have a question regarding scheduling. So as far as finding out realistic times for certain trades, would you recommend softwares like RS Means to find out some of that stuff, or how do you guys, or how would you recommend going about finding that out to make an accurate schedule?
That's a good question. RS Means is mainly geared for commercial construction. And I find we have to subscribe to RS Means now, so I don't know if you have the ability. I guess you could as a student. That's a basis, but that's typically based on time and materials. Most of our trades work off of negotiated contracts, pay so much per square foot. I'm not sure if you're in, what school are you with?
I go to the University of Nebraska at Kearney, and I do have RS Means access.
But most of RS Means, well, some of it's unit based, some of it's time and materials. I don't know what, unless you're way out in California or somewhere, that I would think that you could probably plug and play. based off of probably what local trades are getting where you're at. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
Scott, that's a
I'll
good
jump in
question.
here. Yeah, so I did check in the rules and guidelines, and it does say that they don't want you, contacting the local municipalities or trade professional partners, kind of associated with that area. But it does say that you can contact surrounding jurisdictions and surrounding companies. So I know that there's resources on the NAHB has a document that gives you total durations broken down by trade and the total duration for a home. And you can try to talk to some builders and some trades and figure out what their durations are and back out of that. If you do use RS means, I think you're going to want to make sure that you're sourcing that and letting everyone know, because sometimes the information in RS means isn't as accurate as what you'll find out in industry from the different trade professionals. So I've seen student teams in the past reach out to different trades and into builders and figure out what their typical durations are for maybe for square footages, and then going from there. And also, in your schedule, sequencing of work is really important. Making sure that everything's in the right order as well.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
I don't have any more questions. I just wanted to thank you guys for your time that you put into this to allow us to ask these questions to you guys.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's a nice comment. And this isn't your last opportunity, as I mentioned. We have that Google group for Q&A. So if things pop up after this that you want to ask questions, feel free to ask them there, and we'll do our best to respond in a timely manner. All right, well, I'll have one more pause here for questions, and if there's no other questions, we'll conclude. So I'll pause here for one more minute here. Feel free to jump in if you have another question. Okay, we're going to go ahead and conclude today's webinar. Thank you all for joining and asking so many great questions, and thanks America's Home Place and the NAHB. Appreciate the sponsorship from America's Home Place and the judges for their time and commitment to this. Thank you, students, as well. I know this is a lot of work. Appreciate it.